Alrighty, so all 11 games from tonight's action have just finished, but in this video I'll only talk about the first 6 games because I still have to watch some condensed highlights for remaining of the game, and since, as I said, there's just so many games that happen around that busy schedule of 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific kind of time, I knew that there was no way I was able to catch every single game, and I still have to watch some of the condensed highlights of one other 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific game, and then of course watch the other one that kicks off like around 8 or 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. But I will say this, in terms of this board, 5 of these 6 games I actually was able to watch either parts of it or entirely as a whole, and it just to happen that the only game I did not watch on this board, and I watched the highlights on the league YouTube channel, has to be the best game of the night, and probably one of the best game we've seen this season, and we'll definitely talk about this one, where it was definitely wild with the way how this game goes. But we first start off with the first game between New England versus the Colorado Rapids, and I want to congratulate the New England Revolution of making some history in this game. As you know, coming into this game, I talked about in the preview where if they can get a win against the Rapids, they officially breaks the record for the most point ever in an MLS regular season, surpassing LAFC mark, and they did exactly that, winning 1-0 against the Rapids in this one. Now, early on, I thought the Rapids was actually the better side, and Cole Bassett had a chance in the 3rd minute, but he puts it over the bar from close range before he had another chance, but he puts it on the volley. You know, Bassett, again, had a lot of chances in this game, but again, he just lacked confidence this season. I mean, you clearly are seeing it week in and week out, and it just feels like no matter how many chances he's getting, he just aren't able to put the ball into the back of the net because of not having that confidence of scoring a goal. But in the 11th minute, Buchanan did fire one over the bar. Oh, also I mentioned Colorado, of course, star off the better side. But that being said, Buchanan fired one over the bar just quickly after I wrote that. And then I thought the Revs started to kind of get back into this game, though Turner had to deny Bassett, who tried to curl one in. And then Gustavo Bo hits the side netting from close range as we head to halftime scoreless in this game. Now in the second half, there was a shout for a handball from Colorado in the box that was not given. Before on the other end, there was a huge shout for a penalty from the Revs in the 58th minute that was not given. Yarbrough then denied Buchanan from 17 yards out as the Revs was pressing to try to get for an opener. By the way, if you can and wondering, or if you wondering whether or not if Bruce Arena actually really care about this match and really want to go for the record, yeah, he definitely wants to go for the record with the way that he basically put his strongest starting 11 in this game. And although I thought this performance wasn't actually one of the best performance from this team that was putting their strongest starting 11, this season, they just find a way to of course score a goal. Though in the 65th minute, Bo hits one straight to Yarbrough before there was another huge shout for a penalty from the New England faithful as they feel like Buchanan was brought down in the box, but nothing was given there. Then Buchanan drills one that goes wide in the 70th minute before Yarbrough absolutely robbing Henry Kester there. I mean, Kester basically had a point-blank effort from 4 yards out, but Yarbrough with some cat-like reflexes to kick that one in. But Bo did have a chance on the second attempt of that sequence, but his curler just missed high. But finally, in the 74th minute, after all the pressure the Revs put on the Rapids, they were able to score. And it's Buchanan who scores from Buxa to give the Revs a 1-0 lead. Well deserved goal, because I thought Tejan Buchanan had another good game in this one for the Revs. Barrios then hits one straight to Turner in the 83rd minute. Colorado was definitely pushing to try to get the late equalizer. Buka had a header that goes wide in the 90th minute, but in the end, the Revs hold on to win 1-0 in this game and make history of reaching 73 points, which is the most ever points in a regular season. Shots in this game, 19 shots for the 12 that the Rapids had, 7 shots on goal for the 4 that the Rapids had, 6 shots off target for the 7 that the Rapids had, 6 shots that was blocked for the 1 that the Rapids had, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that the Colorado Rapids had in this game. By the way, they mentioned the fact that the Supporters' Shield ceremony is actually not happening in this game, and it's actually going to be happening on the final day of the season, which was kind of appropriate because it was a relatively empty empty stadium in this game. And, I know people are going to criticize the fact that how in the world the Revs just had the best season in their history and pretty much had the best season ever in the league regular season history, and how in the world do we see just tens of thousands of empty seats at Gillet Stadium? Well, you gotta remember, this is a Wednesday game, and even when the Revs are good, Wednesday game at Gillet Stadium is always brutal, and not to mention the fact that throughout the broadcast, I think Brad Fieldman mentioned the fact that there was a northeaster that just went through, and although it wasn't raining in this game, a lot of people were affected by that, and there was still flooding that was going on around the Boston area. So yeah, that I think I will say is a legitimate excuse of why Gillette Stadium was so empty. But in general, Gillette Stadium is always kind of empty for a weekdays kind of game. In fact, most of the games we've seen tonight, there was definitely notable empty seats, and I don't think there's even like one game where I really think it was sold out. And that includes the next game I'm going to talk about, which is Atlanta United versus Inter Miami. And I think this was probably the most packed I've seen in a stadium. Besides, I think there was another game that was pretty packed in terms of the stands, and that one was between Sporting KC versus the Galaxy. And that one was actually very impressive considering the fact that, that game was raining. And usually when you see a game that is raining, especially in MLS, the attendance definitely suffer from that, because apparently MLS fans don't like to sit in the rain, even though most stadiums has kind of a partial roof in it. But in this one between Atlanta versus Inter Miami, it was Atlanta getting a huge 3 points in this game, and now with them getting this win to move up to 6th place and knowing they have a game in hand over the team above them, they could have a chance to climb as high as 4th place and maybe even snatch that position of having at least one playoff game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium this season. Now, in the first half, Higuain did went through on goal, but he just could not finish. In fact, as he went through on goal, he kind of lost his composure a little bit, kind of got the ball stuck in his feet and couldn't really quite recontrol it. But Guzan did deny Leerdam in the 13th minute, as I thought Miami kind of got off to a good start. Miami really played well in this one, but unfortunately, the finishing was just not there for them. And how many times I've talked about how when you're a team that are the underdog and you're facing against a superior team, you have to take advantage of the chances that it's given. But then Marsman did deny Araujo in the 15th minute, as I thought the game started to open up and both teams were starting to get some chances. Morgan then missed a sitter from 4 yards out in the 27th minute. I mean, Lewis Morgan had some big chances in this game that he definitely would love to have it back after the end of this game. Before there was a penalty given to Miami after Guzan brought down Morgan in the box. Now, I thought this was kind of a little bit controversial because, Guzan did kind of get to it. He kind of cleared that ball away, and unfortunately, as he cleared that one away, his foot kind of was in the motion of getting into Morgan's knees following that clearing motion. And I thought sometimes when that happened, yeah, I think that would be harsh to be called a penalty, but knowing the fact that Inter Miami just have no luck in terms of calls going their way, I guess maybe this is just the MLS gods kind of showing them some mercy for once, giving them a call, which they were able to take advantage of it, as Gonzalo Higuain slots home the penalty to give Inter Miami a 1-0 lead in this game. And you're thinking, well, look like Inter Miami, there's maybe proven that those 2 games that they play against 2 of the worst teams in the league and dominate them during last week wasn't really a fluke. But in the 39th minute, Barco did hit a 20-yard free kick that goes straight to Marsman as we head to halftime with Miami leading 1-0. But in the second half, this is when Atlanta started to really took over this game, and you can definitely start to see some urgency from them that, yeah, they just cannot afford to lose this one. They press early for the equalizer. Guzan robbed Higuain from point-blank range in the 53rd minute. Again, it seems like even when Atlanta was trying to take over this game, which they eventually did, Miami did start to kind of had some response, and that was another big opportunity from Gonzalo Higuain to give Miami a 2-0 lead, and that missed opportunity would come back to haunt the visitor, because in the 60th minute, Araujo would score to tie the game up at 1 apiece for Atlanta. But in many ways, yeah, this was just a bad setup of the wall for Miami. And there's a reason why nowadays, whenever we see a wall set up on a free kick, especially from one that you know the team is going to try to strike toward goal, there's always going to be someone that has to be lay on the ground, because it just prevent if the player decide to strike it low, it can go under the wall, and that's why that man laying down there is basically gonna have to block it. I mean, yes, if that does eventually happen, the person that's under the wall and lying under the wall is gonna take a bit of a hit, but that's just how it is used to kind of prevent it. And I was kind of surprised that Miami decided to not think about this, and because of that, Araujo saw that opportunity. He basically puts one low and under the jumping wall that Inter Miami team has, and puts the ball into the back of net to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And it was almost 2-1 as 2 minutes later, the post would deny Barco and Elena the lead. I mean, Ezequiel Barco had another good game. Very unlucky to not get on the score sheet here. But there was no doubt that momentum was with Elena. Martinez in the 71st minute thought that he scored the go-ahead goal, but the goal was disallowed for offside. But just 1 minute later, he would get on the score sheet as he scored from Araujo to give Elena a 2-1 lead. So, Araujo, 1 goal and 1 assist. Definitely, I think he of course is going to deserve the man of the match after this one. Marsman then denied Moreno in the 78th minute as Elena was looking to try to get that third and to finish this game off. But in the 87th minute, Robinson, he missed wide in the near post and had a big opportunity there before. Or just 2 minutes later, he had even a bigger opportunity where he missed an absolutely free header, and that Guzan was able to deny that. I actually originally almost mixed up of the fact that he missed a free header in the 87th minute, when indeed it was actually the next notes that I of course put down. But nevertheless, what a big missed opportunity that was for Robinson, and that Miami, they were definitely trying to push late, trying to get that equalizer to save their season, because with the result going on while this game was happening, Miami was definitely staring elimination if they cannot pick up a draw in this game. And in the end, they weren't able to do so, as Atlanta was able to win 2-1 in this one. Shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 11 that Miami has, 8 shots on goal compared to 6 that Miami has, 2 shots off target for the 5 that Miami has, 3 shots that was blocked for the none that Miami has, and possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that Inter Miami has in this game. And like I said, with this loss, Miami has officially been eliminated from playoff contention. And I'll also talk about tomorrow in my second part of the review. They're not the only team that have been eliminated in this game. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is Nashville and FC Cincinnati in the craziest game of this Wednesday action. And, for Nashville coming into this game, I said that this is just what the doctors ordered, because they're about to play a team in FC Cincinnati that pretty much is gifting free points like it's Christmas every single week. And although in the end Nashville does get the free points that they desperately needed to end their 6-game winless stretch, I don't think this was what Gary Smith's team envisioned when they came in to TQL Stadium in this one. Because in the first half, Cincinnati actually gets the opening goal just 5 minutes in, as Romney unfortunately scored an own goal here. Originally, I thought it was Vasquez, the one that basically stabbed this one in, but as the ball comes in, it looks like it was last touch of Romney, and unfortunately, he gets the credit of the own goal to give Cincinnati a 1-0 lead. And then just 11 minutes later, a penalty was given to Cincinnati as Romney basically brought down Yaya Kubo in the box. So an absolute nightmare of a start for Dave Romney, not only giving up the own goal, but now giving away a penalty, which Brenner was able to put the ball into the back of the net. And Cincinnati was up to a 2-0 start against Nashville SC. Now, despite the fact that I did see the scoreline, I was thinking, well, yes, Cincinnati is up 2-0, and that's definitely shocking. But how much would I bet that they're going to probably blow it? Because we've seen it before this season, where even when they look like they're in control and look like they potentially could get a big victory, they somehow always find ways to lose games. And that's kind of why I also wrote, even though Cincinnati was off to a great start, can they try to, for once, hold on this lead and at least finally give their fans something to cheer about? Spoiler alert, that of course is not the case. But though in the 23rd minute, it seems like it might be the case, because another penalty was given to Cincinnati. This time, they did go to VAR to see whether or not if Daniel Lovett's handball in the box. He did. So that's a penalty for Cincinnati, and Brenner, who of course scored the penalty previously, yeah, he tried to be a little bit too cute here. Tried to do a Panenka, and when you try to do a Panenka from the penalty spot, you better make sure that goes into the back of net, because if it doesn't go into the back of net, yeah, you're gonna be the talking point. And I'm pretty sure after this game there's going to be some talking point about why exactly does Brenner try to do a Panenka. I mean, the previous penalty he took, it was a perfect penalty. Why doesn't he just do the same thing? Did he maybe try to overthink a little bit, think that if he goes the same way Willis was able to save it, so he tried to do something fancy to basically trick Willis there? I mean, if anything, why not he just go the other way, or try maybe a different kind of run up from the penalty to kind of fool Willis there, because in this sequence Willis was completely not fooled whatsoever. He stood on this line and basically catch that Panenka, and yeah, that was a big missed opportunity for Cincinnati to be going up 3-0 in this game, and it would come back to haunt them very quickly, because in the 28th minute Walker Zimmerman would score from Mukhtar to make it 2-1 in favor of Nashville. And this is when I think, yep, this is when Cincinnati is starting to collapse, and I won't be surprised it would be 2-2 very soon. But to everybody's surprise, that was not the case, because in the 32nd minute, Brendan Vasquez would score to make it 3-1 in favor of FC Cincinnati. And again, if there is a lone bright spell for Cincinnati this season, it has to be Brendan Vasquez, who has just been on an incredible form. And it just kind of sucks the fact that he, of course, have to stuck in such a bad team like FC Cincinnati, because he has such a potential to be a very good MLS player. But right on the stroke of halftime, just as if Cincinnati was going to head to halftime with a 2-goal lead, Randall Leal would score right on the stroke of halftime, and it was 3-2 at halftime. And when I saw that score line, I'm like, yep, this, even though Cincinnati was getting a 3-2 lead, how much do I bet the fact that they're not going to hold on to this 3-2 lead? And to no one's surprise, that was exactly not exactly the case, because in the second half, despite the fact that Nuga struck the post from long range, Nashville would get the equalizer and tied it at 3 apiece. And it's CJ Sapon who finally broke a little bit of a goal drought that he's been endure, as he scored from Zimmerman and Mukhtar to tie the game up at 3 apiece. And little do we know that this was also the start of the floodgates, because 5 minutes later, Randall Leal would score from Mukhtar to make it 4-3 in favor of Nashville. Then it was 5-3 in favor of Nashville, as Akeluba gets Akeloba scored from Randall Leal to make it 5-3 in favor of Nashville. That's Loba's first MLS goal, and he would actually get on the assist chart too, as late in this game it would be 6-3 in favor of Nashville, as Sapon would score his second from Loba to make it that scoreline. And that, of course, is the final score of this game, as with this loss, it is official that FC Cincinnati has clinched the wooden spoon for the 3rd straight years and become the first ever team to do so. And I think this is probably the most fitting way for them to win the wooden spoon, because this is just how their season has gone. It's been nothing but heartbreak and nothing from frustration. And if anything, after this resort, I don't think Cincinnati is that pissed off after this resort, and at least their fans are probably not that heartbreak about this resort, because the old saying that the fact that when you of course being punched in the mouth so many, or punch in the mouth a couple of times, it hurts, but when you get punched in the mouth so many different times, it just started to kind of feel numb, and eventually you just kind of don't feel anything. And that's kind of what FC Cincinnati fans are feeling. I mean, they feel like this is just completely normal, and the fact that it's just nothing but frustration for this team, which this is also kind of the reason why over and over again I've just feel so sorry for this Cincinnati fan base, because again, they have such a great fan base, and this team, I think if they could get all in the winning spirits, which I do believe they could do so if they're gonna do again another overhaul, and I do believe their new GM Chris Albright is going to change things up. But yeah, it's been just such a rough season for them, and like I said, it's just kind of a fitting way that they would win the wooden spoon in a game where if they were a normal team, they should be able to just kind of get a win easily. But this season, with just how many blown leads that they suffer this season, it's not even a big surprise that they eventually blew it at the end. But the shots in this one, 9 shots compared to 15 that Nashville has, 8 shots on goal compared to 5 that FC Cincinnati has, 5 shots off target compared to 2 that FC Cincinnati has. Both teams had 2 shots on his block, and possession-wise, 47% possession compared to 52% possession that Nashville has in this game. And even though Nashville did get the 3 points in this game, I have a feeling Gary Smith is not going to be happy with how his team performed. Like, you know, if you have to really come from behind against the worst team in the league, yeah, if they kind of play like this against another team, then I have a feeling they're probably not going to come back. And I know of course it's going to be easy to say the fact that, you know, as we get late in the season, 3 points is 3 points, and they definitely take it. But, you know, if they kind of play like this in the playoffs, I do not think they're going to go very deep into the postseason. But we'll see whether or not if they can maybe use this game as kind of a springboard to get into a good run heading into the playoffs. Because, like I said, you know, this is the first time they won a game in the last 7 games, and they just finally snap out of that 6-game winless run that they had. But now moving on, in terms of the next game, is going to be Columbus and Orlando City, and Columbus is still alive in the playoff race. They, in a game where it was an absolute must-win for them against Orlando City, they did exactly that by winning 3-2 against Orlando, though, you know, it did kind of go a little bit tense late in this game, especially with the way Orlando did get a late goal to set up a grandstand finish in a relatively long stoppage time that we had in the second half. But in the first half, there wasn't really much that happened in the first 15 minutes, as the shots was only 2-0 in favor of Orlando, and there was no shots on goal for both teams. But in the 20th minute, we get our first shot on goal, and it was in the back of the net. It's Miguel Berry scoring from Zarian to make it 1-0 in favor of Columbus. And like I said, you know, not only the fact that that was the first shot for Columbus, but that was the first shot on goal of the game. And the fact that it goes into the back of the net has to be joyful for one team, but for the opposition, it has to be very frustrated. The fact that you've been playing such a good defense and prevent the other team of having any shots on goal, and then on the first shot, it basically goes into the back of the net. Mueller then, in the 25th minute, tried to respond, but he heads it wide from close range. Before 5 minutes later, Columbus would double their lead, and it's Etienne Jr. that scores from Zarian to make it 2-0 in favor of Columbus. Not a great moment for Gillet here. I mean, this ball was coming into the box from the corner from Zarian, but Gillet, you know, he just missed a punch like this. I don't know why exactly that is the case, considering Gillet has been always very comfortable with that, but in this sequence, he missed a punch, and Etienne was just waiting there in the back post to head into the back of the net, and Columbus, just like that, have a 2-0 lead, and that would be the scoreline heading into the second half. Now, in the second half, there was a lifeline that Orlando was awarded early, as they got a penalty after VAR deemed that Mensah handball in the box. But in that penalty kick, it looked like Room was originally able to make a big save to deny DK from the spot, but then they go to VAR again to check to see whether or not if Eloy Room came off his lines a little bit too early, and he did. So they had to retake that penalty, and in the second attempt, DK, of course, make no mistake, as he puts that one away to make it 2-1 in favor of Columbus. Then there was a shout for a penalty for Columbus in the 56th minute, but unfortunately the referee deemed that Etienne was fouled outside the box, and in the end, I think it was the correct call, because even though Etienne, it looked like he basically was fouled in the box there, it seems like his momentum basically carrying him into the box. And remember, the foul usually, not usually, the foul always will happen at the spot of where it happened, and not where after a player basically just kind of took his forward momentum and basically they go down on the ground, as we saw in this sequence with Etienne Jr. But in the 58th minute, Gillet was able to deny Zarian from the free kick. Before 3 minutes later, Zarian would get on the score sheet, as he scored from Morea to make it 3-1 in favor of Columbus, and there was no doubt that this was an absolute banger of a goal that Zarian just scored, and definitely in contention for goal of the week. But I will say that tomorrow, when I will do my second part of the review, we also saw a goal that could equally maybe get this goal that Zarian scored, which was an absolute thunder strike from 30 yards out, a little run for the money for goal of the week this week. In the 78th minute, Pereira did miss wide from close range before Room was able to deny DK in the 89th minute as Orlando was trying to push to get one back, and they do. It's Janssen that scored from Akindele to make it 3-2 in favor of Orlando City, and as I mentioned before, there was a long stoppage time in the second half, 9 minutes in total. So even though Orlando, of course, score in stoppage time, this happens very early, and that there was still 7 minutes left to play in this game at minimum, and there was a chance that maybe Orlando can sneak out of Lower Dogcom Field with a point in this one, but it wasn't meant to be. Columbus was able to lock it down in the last 7 minutes to hold on to win 3-2 in this game. And the shots in this one, 10 shots compared to 12 that Orlando City has. 5 shots on goal compared to 3 that Orlando City has. 2 shots off target compared to 7 that Orlando City has. 3 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Orlando City has. And possession-wise, 48% possession compared to 52% possession that Orlando City has in this game. And with this win for Columbus, they, of course, as I mentioned, still alive in the playoff picture, and I believe they're 3 points back of the team that is just above the red line, which is the DC United. But keep in mind they do play more games than a lot of teams above them. So even though they are closing in the playoff picture, they still need a lot of help. But getting a win in this game against Orlando City was an absolute must, and they did exactly that to keep themselves in the playoff race. Speaking of DC United, moving on into the next match. Boy, what a gutsy performance this was from DC in the Atlantic Cup, because the Red Bulls, they really dominate throughout this game, and it looked like for sure that they were eventually going to get the equalizer after DC jumped out to a 1-0 lead, but it was just... It never happened, and a lot of that has to do with some good defensive play and also Bill Hamid probably having one of his best games of this season. Now, in the first half, I thought DC was on the front foot early, and they will reward that by getting the opening goal 9 minutes in. It's Kevin Paredes scoring from Roberta to give DC a 1-0 lead, but that was really the only time when DC kind of looked like they were in control, because after this is when the Red Bulls started to press for the equalizer. Fabio had a chance in the 13th minute, but he hits it wide from close range before Patrick Klimala had a shot that was deflected just wide. The Red Bulls, of course, at that point I thought that they responded well, and they were definitely trying to get the equalizer. I mean, at that point I didn't think that they were just going to control the rest of this game. Hamid then denied Duncan from close range in the 23rd minute before he would deny Cáceres Jr. in the 43rd minute. And then Hamid actually was able to deny Duncan, and I thought this was probably the only shaky moment that Bill Hamid had, where he kind of spilled this save from Duncan, and Cáceres Jr. had an opportunity to capitalize on that spillage that Hamid made, but unfortunately he wasn't able to put that one on target. So definitely a huge sigh of relief for Bill Hamid and DC United that he was not punished for that mistake, and DC was able to head to halftime with a 1-0 lead. Now in the second half, Roberta went through on goal, but unfortunately he missed the target. That was really the other big opportunity that DC had in this game, besides the chance that they had early that scored the only goal of this one. Klimala in the 57th minute went through on goal, but he also missed wide. I mean, Klimala, he had a lot of chances in this game, and I think a lot of these Red Bulls players that had their chances in this game, they're definitely going to be thinking about tonight how in the world they weren't able to score their chances. But a lot of that has to do with Hamid again. Kind of standing on his heads in this one. He denied Goodman in the 60th minute as the Red Bulls was pushing for an equalizer. Reyes on the next sequence had a big opportunity to head it into the back post, but he missed that one wide. But really, after that, as the time winds down, it looked like DC not only wrote out the pressure, but they pretty much locked that down in terms of their defense and not allowing the Red Bulls any opportunity to equalize. And I guess maybe that's part of them doing a good job on the defensive end, and also the Red Bulls started to lost belief that they were going to get a goal. I mean, when you miss that many chances up to that point, you're going to definitely start to have that belief that, yeah, it looks like this is just going to be one of those days where no matter what we do trying to score a goal, it's just not going to come off. And in the end, that is exactly how this game would end, as the Red Bulls would lose 1-0 in this game and their 8-game unbeaten streak comes to an end in the hands of their rival DC United. Shots in this one, only 4 shots compared to 17 that the Red Bulls had. 5 shots on goal compared to 3 that DC had. 1 shot off target compared to 2 that the Red Bulls had. 4 shots that was blocked compared to none that DC had. And possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession that DC had. And again, this just feels like one of those games where, this is why in the game of soccer, stats doesn't usually always determine the outcome and whoever wins this game. And this was a prime example of it, because despite the fact that the Red Bulls pretty much dominated most of this game, DC was just more clinical, and they were able to have a good defensive performance, and their goalkeeper kind of up to the task and get a much needed 3 points to now get themselves back above the red line. Though that being said, the teams are around them, including teams that is below them, do have a game in hand over them, so they're gonna still need to have some help if they want to get themselves stay above the red line. And in many ways, they're gonna really hope that both Montreal and what was the other team that have found themselves below the red line once again? Oh, the Red Bulls, of course. They better hope the fact that those two teams in that game in hand that they had, which will I think be the midweek game leading up to decision day in a couple of days' time, will lose those games so that they can of course stay above the red line. But moving on now to the last game that I'm going to talk about in terms of part 1 of this review of tonight's action is TFC versus the Philadelphia Union, which ended in a 2-2 draw. So the Union, knowing that Nashville of course got a win, they need to of course get a win if they want to stay in that second spot, but unfortunately they weren't able to do so in this game against TFC. Though early on it looked promising for Philly, because just 30 seconds in, Bedoya would score from Gastak and Wagner to give TFC, or not TFC, but Philly a 1-0 lead. They had a chance to make it 2-0 at the half-hour mark as Gillet hits one straight to not Bono, actually. It was actually Westberg there. When I watched part of this game, I thought Bono was in goal, but it turns out later when I watched the second half of this game, and I actually watched the last 30 minutes of this game once this one was over, I found out that it was actually Quentin Westberg, the one that was in goal. So yeah, Gillet actually hits that one straight to Westberg instead of Bono. But on the other end, and in the 36th minute, Fries was able to deny Schaffelberg in this one before Fries once again denied Schaffelberg in the 38th minute. It was kind of interesting to not see Andre Blake in this game, because Andre Blake is not really on international duty, but I guess maybe this was a game where for Jim Kern he tried to rest some of his player, and knowing the fact that Matt Fries has also been doing very well this season, he kind of had the confidence that he can bring his young backup goalkeeper in this game and get a win out of this one. But there was no doubt that he was definitely tested, as I talked about those 2 chances that TFC had, and they were definitely trying to press for an equalizer before halftime. But we do head to halftime with the Union leading 1-0. Now in the second half, Fries was tested again as he denied Pozuelo in the near post before, in the 62nd minute, Westberg absolutely robbed Shabilko from point blank effort, and that chances would be pivotal, because just 4 minutes later, TFC would tie the game up, and it's Josie Outdoor for the second game in a row gets on the score sheet to tie the game up at 1 apiece. Before 4 minutes later, TFC turned this game on its head, and unfortunately it's Elliott the one that scored the own goal to make it 2-1 in favor of TFC. And even if Elliott did not intervene this one, there was Josie Outdoor waiting in the back post and ready to kind of tap that one into the back of net, and Jack Elliott was trying to maybe get to that one, trying to block that one away, but unfortunately he just kind of stabbed it into his own net to give TFC a 2-1 lead. But yeah, there was no doubt the momentum was with TFC. They almost made it 3-1 when Lawrence blasted wide from long range effort. And before I finished writing, Toronto was taking control of this game. Philly kind of took the momentum back in the 77th minute as Sergio Santos would score from Wagner to tie the game up at 2 apiece. But in many ways, this was just terrible defending from TFC. Like, how in the world did Sergio Santos just find himself wide open there, completely uncontested from 12 yards out? Is just criminal defending from this TFC SC team and deservedly give up the goal and give up the lead up to that point. But in the 80th minute, Szybylko then struck the post as he went through on goal. I mean, Kasper Szybylko, he must be having a lot of trouble in his sleep tonight of how in the world did he not score a goal, because he had so many good opportunity in this one. This was another one of them which could have given his team the lead. The momentum was definitely with the Union, though in the 89th minute there was a huge shout for a handball in the box from the Union as they thought that Bradley handballed that one. And you know, originally when I look on the first replay, they definitely had the case to make that claim, because it definitely looked like it was clearly hit off of Bradley's hand. But then when they show a couple more replay, I guess maybe that one was hit off of the thigh of Bradley and then it kind of bounced into his hand. And you know, with the handball rule, I know it has recently changed just last year, and I still don't understand whether or not if MLS has officially enforced the new rule that FIFA basically introduced in terms of the handball rule. But you know, I think if they haven't enforced it, then yeah, I think in the end this was the correct call. Though, you know, I can also understand the frustration for the Union, especially with Jim Curran. He was absolutely livid on the touchline when this was not given a penalty. And in some way, I feel like maybe in that play they probably should have gone to VAR to see it, especially it was so late in the game. I mean, I understand that it's late in the game and you don't want to prolong the one, but that was a vital to a moment of the game, and it could really kind of change how this game is. And I think in many ways those pro referees are kind of fortunate in the end. I think they got the call right, because imagine if they did not get the call right and how Union fans are going to be absolutely livid, the fact that they might have just been robbed of a win in this one. But either way, it ends in a 2-2 draw between both of these teams, as the shots in this one, 15 shots apiece for both of these teams, 3 shots on goal for the 4 that the Union has, 6 shots off target for the 5 that the Union has, 6 shots that was blocked for both of these teams, and possession-wise, TFC had the better of the possession, 60% possession compared to 40% possession that the Philadelphia Union has in this game. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the 6 games that happened tonight. And like I said, tomorrow I will be finishing off the review of the Wednesday night action, looking at the last 5 games, and also be doing a moving forward series with some of these teams that have been eliminated, because, you know, during my trip to Florida and New York last week, I wasn't able to do some moving forward series for teams that have already been eliminated, and I've already made the promise that this year I'm actually going to be productive and actually will pump out those moving forward series early, and not just have to wait until like almost the beginning of the season to finish the last moving forward series episode. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time with another Sports Hub series episode.